everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. Attention, you are surrounded by Germans now. Yes, Germans in Australia, more or less. I mean, two global citizens. We have amazing Rumana Khan with us. Rumana, are we going to do this in German or English or another language today?
Let's stick to English. My German is rusty. I'm sorry.
I know, isn't
I'll
that
get
funny? We're
it.
like native German speakers, but yeah, like it's easier to speak English than German nowadays.
Absolutely.
All right, so guys, today we're going to talk about EQ is the new AI. So, why emotional intelligence is the superpower your kids need now? Let me tell you a little bit about Rumana. I've met Rumana online. We have both taken the same program on AI. Then we have been meeting up at the Sydney Opera House event. We have a couple of same coaches and mentors we're learning from, getting coached by. We're in similar communities. She's a serial entrepreneur, a power mom at the same time. We met in so many different places around the world by now. Romana is one of Australia's most compelling cross-disciplinary entrepreneurs, a chartered structured engineer who has quietly pivoted from building skyscrapers to engineering the foundations of human potential. Today, she operates at the intersection of AI, emotional intelligence, real estate, and youth leadership, running 5 interconnected brands that form a singular, purposeful ecosystem. And there's so much more I could tell you about her. Met her kids, met her husband. Now, you just came back from New York. You attended an event or like the conference by the United Nations. Rumana, what was your key takeaway from having been there with the game changers of the world?
Yes, it was a very interesting experience. And sitting in the room with policymakers, change makers, and global impact leaders was quite impressive just to be there and to listen to them. The key takeaways, however, it seemed that there is a very big disconnect between the local non-for-profit organizations and the level all the way up to the United Nations. And I believe, or I have seen as an instructor while I was there training and coaching the delegates just before the conference, that there is very little understanding of how the reporting works to be able to present a urgent case to the United Nations, to the leaders to be able to address it properly. So I have seen a huge potential with AI
Mhm.
and creating a framework and processes that could easily be rolled out across all the NGOs across every country that can then be streamlined for reporting all the way to up there. So there's several levels of reporting. And
Mhm.
most people don't understand that whole, hierarchy of reporting. So I think there is huge potential at the moment. It's broken. That's what I've seen, which is probably
Interesting.
why a lot of people see that, United Nations talks a lot about things, but actions aren't taken. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably one of the reasons.
So back in China, I was also working with high school students and university students on the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And I mean, we are very far away from even
Yeah.
reaching one single of these SDG goals. At the same
Mhm.
time, I remember some of my smartest friends, a former client of mine, she was always dreaming of working for the United Nations. And I myself have been to the UN in Geneva. So we always feel like, wow, we put it on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, what made you go there? Or like, what does it take to actually attend one of these conferences?
How I actually ended up there.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's through my volunteering and charity work that I do with the Women's Federation for World Peace. and really as a global partner and a mentor also for women, like younger women and youth, in the leadership space, education space, but also AI. What I have seen while I've been involved there was this huge opportunity to educate younger leaders, but also existing senior leaders on evolving. Obviously there's AI, there's technology and innovation, but most of these non-for-profit organizations do amazing work that never gets the accreditation, credibility that they actually deserve. So
Yeah.
what I have been trying to do at the United Nations as well is teach them how to monetize the skills, the experience that every single one of the volunteers have. So, me as a mentor, I'm trying to do that in the AI leadership and education space for younger leaders, but also for executives. But monetization is important. United Nations probably could do more if there were more funds to be,
Hmm.
distributed to the NGOs across the world to have the impact. But there is no structured framework at the moment anywhere. So I
And
think,
that is so interesting what you just mentioned. That brings me back to, if any one of our listeners listened to my solo podcast yesterday, it was about like how decision makers like create visibility. That at the end, the client chooses you, buys from you instead of like with the competition, right? And some of the smartest people, and as you just mentioned, it could be whether it's a business or these non-for-profits, they might be creating amazing change, but because they're not in doing their branding and being loud on social media or like on
Mhm.
TV or in the news and creating that visibility, that's why they never get to these high stages of like global awareness to actually get the support that they would need to make an even bigger impact, right?
Yeah. So I guess the biggest challenge, Janine, is that non-for-profits, they want to do good, right? But what they lack is the business acumen to be able to
Mhm.
roll out their, important work and the impact they want to have. Because let's face it, without money, the impact that you want to create is not going to be happening at the level that you actually,
Yeah.
desire it to happen. So for me, what I've seen since last year is all about educating every single one in the organization to be able to monetize what they can and then put that together and as volunteers, as coaches, in whatever form you can, so that the greater good can actually happen. So
Mhm.
I think that applies to every charity, because they think charity, but they don't think business.
Yeah. I mean, it's very impressive. So Humana basically has 5 brands: Prime Pot, SciBuddy, Child CEO, Exit by Design, RK Digital. And you say each one evolved naturally from a gap you noticed. But every
Mhm.
entrepreneur sees gaps, right? So most
Yeah.
of them don't build 5 companies though. What is your actual filter for deciding whether a gap deserves a whole new brand?
Well, I suppose it all started when I started my own business as a, small business owner, doing everything by myself. The urgency and the need to have consultants, a marketing agencies, sales team, social media, becomes crucial to how successful your business can be. And unfortunately, I had the experience with absolutely useless, I'm sorry to say, agencies that, and I'm pretty sure 80% of other businesses have experienced the same thing, where agencies promise the world, promise quality leads that you
Mhm.
never get to close because those needs were just not quality leads. And you end up spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of time that you could have otherwise built momentum with in your business. So you lose time and you lose business. And a lot of business owners, because of that reason, give up eventually because they think their business doesn't work. But it was never
Mhm.
about their business. It was about the processes, the lead generation, etc. So after trying 4 or 5 or more agencies, actually, I've tried everything, trust me.
Yeah.
Locally, overseas, a lot of stuff. I just decided that, okay, no one's able to help me. I really need to get this done. I'm going to learn it myself. And over the
Mm.
time, I realized that yes, you cannot be in every part of your business physically and mentally, emotionally, but you do need to learn about the skills required for your business to work efficiently. So at least learn, say, 70-80% of the area that you need help with. So whether it's sales, it's marketing, social media. So I learned everything about Facebook ads, Business Suite, Google Ads. I was like, okay, I finally figured out what a funnel is, and then how those funnels go into workflows and automations and lead magnets. So
Mm.
A to Z in marketing, and it's super important that you don't just learn from one source because different people teach you different things. So that goes from
Absolutely.
Russell Brunson. Yeah, so Russell Brunson's obviously the big funnel man, amazing. But then there's mindset, right? There's Tony Robbins. There is, I mean, our own coach, Janine. JT Fox. He's amazing at business skills, sales, and closing. So negotiation. There is millions of things that you need to learn. But eventually, what my ecosystem ended up being is learning what I need so that I can hire the right people. Because if you don't know what you
Mm.
need, you'll just end up hiring the wrong people. So
That's
that's
true.
yeah. So that's how it ended up. So real estate is something that naturally evolved because I'm a structural engineer. I design in Australia. I saw a gap for, um, you know, home buyers who didn't have the help to invest in the right real estate and the right property, whether you're owner, occupier, or investor. But my expertise was more in the design and build. So I create equity. I manufacture equity by designing the right product for my clients, so as soon as the property is complete, you automatically have a lot of equity in there for
Yeah.
you to, yeah,
I
move
think what
forward.
the audience can definitely see is like we have this very smart businesswoman, serial entrepreneur in front of us. I have known Romana for a while, all right? And then I saw her speak on stage and share her story in Los Angeles at a conference in front of, I don't know, I think like 2,000 people, tons of business owners from, I think like 80 different countries around the world. And I thought I've known this lady, right? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, her story was touching. I think we had several people in the audience that got goosebumps, were nearly crying. And I really would love to have, like, in a nutshell, a bit of like your story of like, I think you were raised by a refugee mother who survived hardship and displacement and violence. Like, tell us very quickly on how you've grown up, and also like how has this, and like it's not about that we want to say, oh, I have pity with you, right? Like, how has this really helped you become this outstanding mom, wife, business owner on of who you are nowadays?
Wow, yes. LA stage was quite a bit of an experience, and it was a business conference, but I decided to share my personal story that has never been shared in public simply because, as you said, not for sympathy. It was more of a wake up call for a lot of entrepreneurs that may have not started yet or want to start, to show them that your past adversities and challenges in life do not have to dictate what you can become in life. So
Mm.
I grew up across 5 refugee camps in Germany by the age of 10. So that was quite something. A lot of people may say, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear. But honestly speaking, I really had the best time of my life. Those memories were amazing because you have nothing to lose at that point. All you can do is dream big and work towards something bigger in life. You become really strong and resilience. You communicate with refugees from all over the world. So, naturally, communication skills build up very quickly as a child, and relationship building, right? So, capital relationship that you require in business as well, the leadership skills that you need to understand who you actually are. So, when you grow up in that environment, you naturally identify, analyze yourself as obviously someone different, but not necessarily someone less, right? So that was quite an experience. And then obviously in Germany, being a refugee wasn't easy because you're always different, even though you grow up thinking and
Sure.
behaving like a German, right? But you don't look like a German. And even to date, people ask me, where you from? And I said, I'm German. And they think I'm telling them a joke. So you live with that for the rest of your life. But I think it is crucial for you to identify yourself as like who are you actually, right? And not be ashamed of where you come from, because that though those milestones build you up to the person that you become. And authenticity, as you know, in the world of AI these days, is super important. People want to do business, people want to trust people who are authentic and genuine about who they are and where they come from. So I think, just to elaborate a little more also on, why I was sharing that, is it has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. So
Mm.
everything that I was talking on stage about, and what the questions that you asked me as well, I've realized at the United Nations as well, every goal that they were talking about crime, they were talking about mental health, depression, suicide, even education, human trafficking. Everything
All
goes back
right.
to, yeah, childhood trauma, and how those experiences have shaped human beings that then
Mhm.
eventually, go into whatever route. So, say criminals, for example. So, emotional intelligence at the very young age, which is why SciBody exists, and also Child CEO. Just to expand on your earlier question, also on the brands and the ecosystem, is because the mental state of children, and that's my lived experience also through my refugee life, is as long as the parenting ensures that your child feels safe, so emotionally safe, but physically safe, mentally safe, that whole environment will dictate how strong your child will become and what route they take when they grow up. And the leadership skills at the same time, everything starts very, very young, which is why I am so like eager to work with primary schools, children as young as 5 years old, as soon as they can understand the basics of, emotional, understanding emotions and naming them. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, hope that makes
So
sense.
let's talk a bit more about SciBody. And SciBody is described as the world's first AI powered emotional intelligence platform. That's quite of a big claim, I would say, right? What does it actually do that a therapist, a school counselor, or a present and loving parent simply cannot do alone?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, why I'm doing it is, again, it's naturally evolved because I am a mother of two. My first child was born premature, 7 weeks, and she is perfectly healthy now. But at 2 years of age, we noticed a very big change in her behavior. And as a mother who is not a psychologist, I wanted to have that expertise, that advice from a child psychologist, or some therapist, to tell me if there's something of concern and I need to address. And I figured out after 12 months of being on a waiting list that we're still on a waiting list. And every session would have cost us more than $1,200 per session out of
Wow.
pocket, because there aren't enough psychologists in the healthcare system for the average kind of families to see an expert. For us, we were just fortunate enough to be able to go overseas and see every single expert that we needed for our child, just to be told that she's fine. So Child CEO came from that experience where I thought no mother, no child has to wait for 12 months plus to be seen by somebody and make sure that they have the help that they need. So SciBuddy, what it does is it addresses the challenge of parents not really knowing what's going on with the child,
Mm-hmm.
teachers not really it's not their duty per se to be dealing with children's trauma and tantrums at school. They are educators. They're not psychologists. They have to have a level of psychology expertise, but they're not there to manage the emotions of children, really.
Yeah.
So, and children that grow up in that environment, whether they are a bully or they are being bullied, no one is addressing the real issues there. So what SciBuddy is trying to do is have a child friendly buddy that's not a human, right? Because children naturally will not speak to an adult that they don't know, they've never seen before, and open up
Mm-hmm.
to a psychologist to tell them everything that's going on with them. It just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work like that. So a lot of parents will be wasting a lot of time and money on therapies that will bring them nothing. So Child CEO is technically an interactive avatar that is based on child psychology, NLP,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of frameworks that psychologists and experts use to, talk younger people and also adults. It's not just for children, but we're targeting children first because they need it the most. To talk them through in like average conversation, but in a very structured way to identify any trigger words or any tendencies towards self-harm or depression or anything that can
Wow.
then go into a dashboard that is shared with the parents and the teachers for them to know, okay, do we need intervention or what's going on with my child on a daily basis, because it'll give them a tracker. It'll be like, okay, your child has been, um, yeah, basically that's what it is, without impacting the what do you call that, confidentiality of children, because as soon as
That
they know,
is
parents.
so meaningful. I mean, if I think about it, I was 14 when my stepdad committed suicide, and I wish somebody would have offered me, hey, here's a psychologist, go talk to them, or because there was nobody else than my mom and me, more or less.
Mm,
So like all these resources that nowadays is available, or especially now I start to understand as a little child, like you have someone now listening to you. If the humans yeah, if the child can't talk to a random person because of whatever reasons, right? And I still want to like mention like what the critics would say, right? And I know you've partly answered this question now.
mm,
So I just gotta ask this uncomfortable question buried in SciBuddy. If AI is providing emotional support to children, are we at risk of replacing authentic human connection at exactly that developmental age when kids need it most? Right? Because especially like having lived in China, I can see how so many of these shy, introverted Chinese feel so comfortable just like being on their phone, texting, or just interacting with the phone. Nowadays, it's
mm,
becoming more normal. I can see it with parents. The child's 2 years old and she's on the iPad the whole time. And
yeah,
I understand that parents are busy, especially if you don't have much money, you need to work all the time. And especially in Asia, we have like this pressure from school. So yeah, like suicide rates is even higher in like high school, which also does make sense on the other hand. And because of
yeah.
the losing face, they might not be opening up to like people, especially if they're like psychotherapists and so on, right?
Yeah, I'm really glad you've asked me that question, because that's exactly the question that we started first with. Because, psychology is something you do not want to depend on AI alone. So, SciBuddy is more of an 80% prevention kind of tool. It's not a therapy tool. So, the prevention is, to be honest, more important than the therapy, because it's a lot easier to deal with than once someone is already, in that disease, I wouldn't call it disease, but in that phase of self-harm or suicidal. So the platform is designed such that it does address COPPA, GDPR. So there's like heavy compliance requirements that AI needs to satisfy. So we have RAG layers, like ethical AI layers built into the platform, but it doesn't replace humans. So the whole idea of
Amazing.
having the escalation process, and I can talk about this for hours. The escalation process is such that there's always a human involved in the background, because as soon as the escalation, the trigger words happen, it does send out notifications to the next of kin of whether it's a child or whether it's an adult using the platform.
Yeah.
So the dashboard also has an inbuilt expert, how do you call that? The option for parents or adults to seek human experts on that platform based on the requirements that they have. So it's not 100% AI platform. We would never really want to replace humans, and it's not designed to replace humans. It's more designed to assist humans in taking out the 80% of workload that is not being addressed at the moment.
Yeah. One more question on that topic. So mental health services are stretched globally, and the families that I think might need PsyBuddy most, those under financial stress, kids in under-resourced schools, for example. I know that
Yeah.
in Australia, they have a lot like these big brothers, big sisters, and other kind of like charity organizations here to help in a lot of different ways. But yeah,
Mhm.
especially those ones are often the ones who can't afford premium platforms. How do
Yeah.
you solve the access problem without destroying the business model? Because at the end, you cannot only do charity.
Correct. And I love that question also. So we have a buy one, fund one policy, which means it is going to be a commercialized platform for people that can afford in the country. So ideally, we're targeting schools, we're targeting corporations for them to license the platform or subscribe to the platform. But every single user that's a paid user is funding a non-for-profit user elsewhere. So my whole work
Mm,
with the Women's Federation for World Peace is based on that. So we can roll this out to everyone that is uh, in underprivileged communities. So they get it for free. There's absolutely no charge. And every single child in this world at the moment, whether, in whatever condition they live, has access to internet. So for us, this is going to be very easy to roll out globally as well. And I really hope that we get enough data from every user initially to prove that this is, the way forward.
amazing. How can we support you on this one? And also, is it already like available? Sorry, next question. Also different languages, different countries, or only Australia?
No, it's not completely rolled out yet because I really want to fine tune it more. It's a very delicate product with all the compliance requirements that we have. So we'll be starting in Australia, but eventually the idea is to be rolling this out in every country,
Mhm.
every language and culture, because the AI really needs to understand the cultural background of the user as well to be able
Yeah.
to provide, um, cultural and like country-based responses. But also, what we want to not do is, roll it out and then having to face localized compliance issues. So we're really wanting to get that right. But to answer your question, yes, it'll be in hopefully in as many languages as possible and globally rolled out eventually.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, let's change the topic a little bit because there's so many interesting things about what you do and who you are. Um, Good. So we also spoke a little bit about child CEO. Schools have been promising to teach emotional resilience financial literacy and critical thinking for probably 30 years or more, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
do trainings. I do a lot of like mental fitness trainings myself. I'm certified, did this not only with the Chinese, but many schools they just haven't, right? And
Yeah.
especially in developing countries, it is even more common than in not developed countries. Why
Yeah.
do you think the education system has failed so consistently at this? And what makes, for example, Child CEO different from just being another well-meaning program that just doesn't scale?
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen. But so the I mean, you've seen it. You and me have grown up in Germany, and Germany is probably a lot better in the early education space than I have seen in other countries. In Australia, I have been very disappointed about the fact that every curriculum is a one solution fits all system. And that is in every single country, right? So there is every child learns differently. Every child has different abilities, and they are, how do I say, they have their own genius in very different ways of learning in different areas of learning as well. So I'm certified in NLP and positive psychology too, so I have done a bit more research in that space. And they're different types of people and they learn differently. But in
Yeah.
school, what happens, every single grade has got this, time frame of delivering a curriculum, and everyone has to follow that. So what teachers and schools have not managed to do is adapt their curriculum to suit a certain way of learning that a child can actually pick up the curriculum better. And I think that is missing, right? So what the
Mm.
schools need to look at is, okay, I have 20 kids in this classroom, but each of these kids learn very differently. We have visual people, we have kinesthetic people, we have audiovisual people. So that everyone has a certain way of learning and adopting the information that they're given. So I think that needs to happen. And Child CEO is based on child psychology and NLP. And what it does is it'll take a curriculum and it will address it in a way that the child can learn better. So that's
Mm.
technically what it is. But Child CEO covers other things as well. So it's not just academics, it's business skills, sales, marketing, leadership, confidence, and speaking. So speaking is very, very important, understanding your emotions. So in all
Mm.
of that conversation, Janine, emotional intelligence is number one, because without
Mhm.
that,
Oh, now you're back. So you were saying without that, emotional intelligence is important. Without that, I think now you're
sorry, I
back.
didn't,
Okay. Sorry, we
yeah.
just lost you. You were saying emotional intelligence is needed without that, and then we lost you.
Okay. Yeah, without emotional intelligence, you will fail at business, at life, at relationships, at
Yeah.
technically everything, right? So
Yes.
that's why EQ is so important.
I have a couple more questions, a little bit more about you, Romana, not just like the amazing work that you're doing, which is so meaningful. So you spoke at the Universal Studios in LA, right? I know you're a global partner of the Women's Federation for World Peace. You're building these 5 brands, your wife, your mom of 2. You have your own challenges in your life too, right? So from the outside, whoo, now we just lost her. Okay, let's see. I'm sure she's going to be back in a second. Well, that happens. Technical issues, right? Guys, while you are listening to this, please send me your comments in a chat. Any questions you have for Romana, we can still ask her. In the meanwhile, please also subscribe to Business Meets Life on YouTube, on Spotify, while we are waiting for Romana to come back. By the way, tomorrow we have an episode with Craig Keegan coming up. He's an M&A specialist and also a specialist in the dental space. But this is not just the only thing that he is doing. And he's based also in Melbourne, Australia. So, yes, that is an interesting lineup for tomorrow. You can really look forward to this. Don't leave us yet. I am pretty sure that Romana will be back in a second. So, let me just quickly see where she is. Please hold the line. We will be with you shortly, right? I love saying that. So, where is she? Maybe I need to give her a call. Who knows? Maybe the battery died or. Oh, there she is. Okay, let's see. Welcome back, Romana. I know tech issues, they just happen. They're natural, right? I don't hear you yet. I don't hear you. Something about the sound. No, I don't hear you. I can read your lips though.
Okay.
Seems I'm. Oh yeah, now you are
I'm
back.
I am so sorry about this.
Hi, it happens, right? It can be anything. Oh, so fun fact, right, guys? I was at the Red Bull Racing in London, and anybody who is a Formula One fan, you're gonna be laughing because they said when they do the live transmissions for the Red Bull Racing, like all these engineers, they said all around the world, wherever Formula One happens, the slowest and worst Wi-Fi and internet connection is, guess where?
I hope not Melbourne.
Melbourne, Australia, right? That makes so much sense. We have Romana from Melbourne here today. Tomorrow we have Craig Keegan. We're going to have another person from Melbourne in a couple of days. So it does make sense. I should have known it.
I am so sorry. I have like 3 devices in front of me connected to Wi-Fi and 5G just in case, and it's still giving me so much trouble. It's incredibly irritating.
That is okay. All right. I'm wondering where we actually ended. I think it was about like, yeah. So you spoke at the Universal Studios in LA. You're a global partner of the Women's Federation for World Peace. You're building those 5 brands. You're a mom of 2, your wife. From the outside, it looks like you're relentless asset, right? What's a chapter of this story that hasn't made it onto the stage? Where did you nearly give up?
I would say relationships struggle the most when you are on the path to, business success and entrepreneurship. And and that's why emotional intelligence has become the number one focus of my life at the moment, whether it's in life, in business, or education for children as well, because it's not been easy to spend the time on, building something that's really meaningful, not just to you, but also that will be meaningful for my children and other like communities and other children in the world for me to leave behind. And I am so adamant about building legacies that require a lot of teamwork at home, right? So my educating my children, making them understand why mama is not always there to play with them, or why sometimes, just to give you an example, I had to go to the UN. I missed my boy's 6th birthday because I wasn't here, and I had to make that tough call to say, am I going to be here celebrating on that particular day with my son, or am I going to be going to the UN to try and make impact that will hopefully impact him as well in his life and so many other people's lives. And obviously I went, but it requires a lot of other effort here at home before I left and after I came back to make up for that, that one lost day cost me probably 3 weeks of a lot of birthday presents and a lot of, makeup days, just to make your son feel that he is still loved. I didn't go away because I don't love him. I went away to do other meaningful things. And that's just one aspect when you're a mom. But at the same time, my husband had to hold the fort for me. So you really need an amazing partner at home that understands why you're going, what you're doing to support you emotionally, but also, make sure that the kids don't die at home while you're gone. So it takes a lot of effort, but it's all down to communication and helping the other partner in the house and the family members understand the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
And I also, first of all, have a lot of respect for this. Think it takes a lot. It's not easy to manage all of it. And I think you're definitely a role model, and you can give like some good advice for other women who want to be like you on that, on the good and the bad days, right?
Oh, trust me,
Um,
I go boxing. I go boxing for a reason, so you can vent out the frustration.
I see. Yeah. And I also love that sometimes you combine it, right? I mean, I met your husband. You both had went to our coach JT Fox's event at the Sydney Opera House, and I had flown in from China just for that one. You guys all together with your kids,
Yeah.
5 days at the Universal Studios at the event in Los Angeles. I mean,
Mm.
that's not the worst place, like Universal Studios for the kids, while mom is speaking there, making an impact, and while being part of like these super successful people from around the world. So you're kind of like combining it, which is great. I have about two more questions for you, if you're okay.
Yeah, sure.
So you work at the intersection of AI and mental health for children. And I can only imagine that this is emotionally heavy territory. You're holding
Yeah.
space, not just for yourself, but for the most vulnerable humans on the planet. How do you protect your own mental health when your entire purpose is being the strong one for everyone else? And a couple of days ago, I organized an event with like Jack Henderson. He's like a very famous buyer's agent in Sydney in Australia, whether you like him or not, but tons of people would know him. And he was
Mm.
saying like, and he makes 150 million a year nowadays, has some of the world's best coaches, the Alex Hermosis, the Tony Robbins, and so on. And he's saying like the toughest is the mental part,
Yeah.
right? Not
Yes.
just as an entrepreneur.
Yes, correct. And I think the more I have delved into this, and my children are the reason why I ended up, pursuing this as my say career after being a structural engineer is because of that simple reason. I mean, you've probably seen it on in your personal life as well. We all struggle since we were children and since we can remember. There has always been days where either you feel very isolated or you feel overwhelmed or you feel neglected, ignored, silenced. There is so many forms and shapes of mental health challenges. Whether you just had a breakup with your boyfriend, you can't talk to anybody about it, your parents don't understand you, you run away from home. There's so many stories. People who have watched Adolescence on Netflix, very disturbing um, thing to watch. But it is a fact in life that most parents think silence means my kid's okay, but it's most
Mhm.
likely the opposite. And there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of pride around mental health. People don't like to tell anyone that, I need help. And
Mhm.
there is a self acceptance that needs to happen first. But before that, people need to understand that they have a problem. Like, why I'm
Mhm.
doing all this
Awareness.
is, yeah, it's all based on lived experience. I would have never stepped into this territory, not coming from a psychology background, if I hadn't lived through the challenges I mean, first as a child during my refugee times you know, the domestic violence that happened in my family, all the way to being bullied at school because I was brown skinned and looked different. And then to, you know, studying, having being bullied at work, in relationships where we all have gone through breakups and emotional turmoil with, you know, people that we love in our lives. But we're not always prepared to even talk to our best friends or our parents or
Yes.
anyone really to, you know, share that, hey, I'm vulnerable, I need help, but I don't know what to do about it. And in my case, I had postnatal depression after my second child was born.
Oh.
I didn't even know I had it because I was constantly angry, and that was so against my nature. At some point I thought, no, there's something wrong with me and I had to see somebody. But what was funny, Janine, was I had 3 sessions with a therapist and she made me feel worse than I was before I started seeing her. So,
Mm,
you know, therapists, psychologists in this world don't necessarily understand your cultural background, your, you know, your personal sort of personality, where
mm,
you're coming from. Again, just like in schools, everybody has that one solution fits all system, even in psychology, and that doesn't help everyone, unfortunately.
mm,
So I think, just to answer your question, mental health is comes down to very, very early phases in childhood, because when you master that part, everything else becomes a lot easier in life.
mm. And also, you said you go boxing, right? I guess this
Yeah.
also helps handle a lot of the different things. How
Yes.
does the how does a normal day in your life look like?
Chaos. Chaos. At the
Thanks
moment,
for
we
being
have school
honest. What does your
holidays.
chaos look like?
So right now, there's no schedule per se other than my business schedules because it's school holidays. So you have the children at home. Time management is super important when you're in business, when you're a mom, to stay sane. So my early mornings start with work and, you know, sort of planning ahead the day before everyone else is up.
Mhm,
Do a lot of yoga in the mornings just to calm my mental health, my physical posture, and everything down. So I am aligned with myself, and that's mostly very, very important in my day. Without that, I become very chaotic internally as well. So that starts
mm,
then, and during school days, preparing the kids for school, you know, making lunch boxes. So business owners do all that stuff as well, making sure what do I pack today because I want them to come back finished with finished lunch boxes rather than full lunch boxes. And once the kids are out of home, it's all about meetings and strategies in the morning. My meetings are mostly in the afternoon from 12 to 3 or 4 o'clock because my mornings I really like to take care of my own tasks that I need to be doing while my brain is all fresh and all.
Transformational tasks, right?
Yes, thinking vision, thinking mission, social media, and all that stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, last question. If you could go back and stand on a construction site next to the version of you calculating load bearing structures on a skyscraper and tell her where you'd be today, what would she say? And what would still embarrass you about the distance where you started and where you are?
I would have been telling her to start entrepreneurial thinking way earlier than she did.
Mm,
And I think in my case, it was more about how I grew up. I didn't have that father figure as well that, you know, most people get guidance from when it comes to the more financial side of things, investment side of things, and also career wise and business wise. So if I had the chance to go back, I would say choose your career wisely and learn other skills that you haven't learned at school and university, to stand out in the crowd, because I think your USB should start with you. It shouldn't start with business when you're in your 30s and 40s. and just be strategic about your career, where you want to be. And I suppose for me, looking back, I was 9 when I knew that I will be a business owner at some point, and I will design homes that will be very expensive at some point. But not every child grows up with that. So I think,
Yeah.
early on, just focus more on how you see yourself when you're 20 years older.
Mhm. I think this was beautiful advice. The last words of Romana here for everyone who's been listening. Thank you for holding space for us, opening up, talking about the good, the bad, the easy, the difficult, on how it is to be a serial entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, and a bit of sharing about your childhood that made you of who you are nowadays. Thanks for making the impact and following this purpose, that mission for to do something good for so many other people out there. Because yeah, the earlier we can really like work on the kids, not just the adults, in fixing stuff that happened in the childhood, the better it is. So when can we expect Spy Buddy to be live? When can we buy it? Is there a waiting list we can already join? Any support you need? And also, I'm happy to reshare whatever you need from my side personally.
Well, I guess at the moment it's really about creation awareness, right? Helping parents see that there is a huge need for their own children. I am speaking to a lot of private schools as well that are a lot easier in rolling out these kind of extra, I would say extracurricular, because they're not really curriculum based, but my intention is to make it integrated in school curriculum at some point. When can you expect Cyberdy? Oh God, 2 years ago, because that's when I started. Um, I am still working on the whole compliance part of things, especially as my weight is AGI, so I really want to see how that goes. We are perfecting the facial recognition and the voice analysis in the platform, so that children who we don't want to be on screen all the time, or even adults, we have a voice recognition part, which means that we can easily analyze if they're distressed, if they're scared, or there's something else going on with them, or even body language reading eventually when we do want to have the video kind of connection. But I think younger children, we really want to just have the voice part in there, because we don't want them on the screen, and parents also would rather not have them on the screen as well. So I don't know, I can't give you a timeline yet, but if you want to reach out, or anyone wants to know more and maybe partner with us, we are open to partnerships and licensing with schools as well. It's on romanakhan.com on the website. There's a link to schedule a call as well for anyone that wants more information.
Wow, so purposeful. Thank you so much, Romana. Now, guys,
Thanks for having
sharing
us.
is caring. If you love today's session, send it to your friends, to your colleague, family members. In the description, you will be able to find all of the social media and how to connect with Romana directly. Please follow also YouTube, Business Meets Life. And yeah, Romana is back. So, and tomorrow we're gonna have Craig Keegan, another common friend of ours, an amazing M&A expert from Melbourne, Australia, on this podcast. By the way, guys, I think this is not going to be a 30-day live podcast now. I think it's gonna be like 45 or 60 days. I don't know. Let's see.
Thank you
Building
so much,
amazing
Janine.
relationships.
It was
Thanks for making time,
amazing.
Romana.
No,
Bye,
amazing.
everybody. Take
Thank you.
care. Have a great day.
Thanks.